Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine Perez. Today I will be talking about temptation and specifically temptation in college, right? So recently my last video was about tips and lifestyle hacks that really helped me in college, right? And if you want to watch that, you can click right there. And in that video I just share like basic academic tips on how to be successful in college. But as a Christian woman in college, I can tell you that that's not the only challenges that you will be facing, right? So when you go to college, there's a lot of exploration, identity finding, a lot of people that you meet, like of different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions. You're going to be taking a plethora of courses, and many courses that can sometimes even start questioning who God is, why God, does God even exist, etc. So it's a time basically where you can start to question your faith, you can start to question who God is, you can start to be distracted and busy from who God wants you to be. And I really want to make this video because I don't think that just being equipped on how to get by your classes and make friends on campus is enough as a Christian woman. I want to share with you guys tips and tricks that I've learned from my mistakes, my experience in college, and my struggle with maintaining a healthy relationship with God. And before I do that, I just want us to pray. I know this is a video, but I just want us to pray because I think that prayer, one, is extremely important, and two, I definitely don't want to say anything that might not be rooted in truth, and I want God to guide me in doing that. And I definitely want this video to impact someone and to open their eyes to maybe something that they didn't know about temptation, something that they thought they were doing that they thought was okay. And I want, whoever to watch this to really know that God is with you, God loves you, and also that you're not alone in this situation and that God can really help you resist temptation, right? So prayer is my number one tip, so let's start with that. God, I ask that you guide me, Jesus, Lord, in bringing these tips that you have put in my heart, Lord, to the people watching, God. I pray that whoever's watching, Lord, that you may be with them, God. You may guard their hearts, Jesus, Lord, and protect them, Lord, from any negative influences, God, that they may encounter in college, God. I pray that you strengthen their relationship with you, Lord. You bring the yearning for your word, the yearning for your presence, God, while they're on campus, God. I pray that you continue to shine your light through them, God, Lord, on campus, wherever they are in their campus community, Lord, whether they're a commuter or resident, God, Lord, that your light may shine through them, Lord, and that other people may see you in them, Lord. College is a very difficult situation, Jesus, but I know that you will continue to guide them, Jesus, Lord, the same way you guided me, Lord. And I pray, God, that you give them discernment, Lord. You give them courage, God, to speak your word, Lord, and to make the right decisions, Lord. And in your name we pray, amen. Yeah. So now that we've got prayer out of the way, and definitely it will guide us through this video and through this conversation, because even though I can't hear you, I genuinely feel like I'm talking to someone and trying to reach that one person, right? So definitely comment down below any questions you may have, any comments you may have, and I hope to answer them and help you through this process. So my first tip, like I just mentioned, is prayer. I recently graduated college. I'm graduated as a visual art and experimental media major. If you want to learn more about that, click this video, 2 more videos that I plugged in, but click that video and watch and you'll learn a little bit more about me. But basically, throughout college, I was a commuter student, so I never lived on campus, I just commuted. And in my college experience, at least when I first started college, I wasn't going to church. I had a very difficult, interesting, I would say, experience going to the church that I was raised in since I was 8 years old. And hopefully I'll make a video on that soon because I think it's definitely important. But right now I'm not going to go into it. I just want you guys to get an idea of who I am before I share my experiences with temptation and my experiences with how to combat that on campus. So yeah, I came into college super shy, super unconfident, super not strong in my identity, if that's the right way to say it. And I used to go to church since I was 8 years old, and basically I'd never wanted to go back to church unless it was that place, at least. So going in to college my freshman year, there was a lot of confusion in my life, right? So first of all, I wasn't deeply rooted in my relationship with God. In order to resist temptation, right, we need to go to the person who is going to help us resist temptation, which is God. And I didn't have that in my life. So my biggest advice would be to maintain your relationship with Christ. And how do we do that? Through prayer, which was exactly what we just did at the beginning of this video. Praying is so important, and it wasn't until, honestly, you guys are gonna be like, what? But it wasn't until my junior year that I started to truly understand the importance of prayer. Because like I said, I didn't go to church for most of my time in college. I didn't even want to go to church, and when I did start to go, it was the beginning of my junior year. The beginning of my junior year, I was so busy, I was so distracted, I was so focused on the things that I personally wanted to accomplish that I didn't even take time to pray to God and be like, God, is this really what you want me to do? I was just out there doing my thing, being super involved on campus, like trying to get all A's every single semester in every single class, and it was difficult, and I was doing everything based off of my own strengths, based off of my own ability, and it was draining, right? And it wasn't until I went to like some event. It was a dating event, so unrelated, but it was a dating event, and one of the people that were talking afterwards, I was telling him like my ideas and some certain events that I was having. He noticed like I was very busy, I was very overwhelmed, and he was like, listen, don't leave your house unless you pray. Like, don't leave your house unless you cry in front of the presence of God and you're ready to go, right? Like, don't leave your house unless you pray. Why? Because we live this world a lot of times thinking that we run it. Not that we run everything, but like at least over our lives, we have the control over it. But we have to understand, as human beings, and most importantly, as Christians, we don't run this. We don't. When we gave and surrendered our lives to Christ, which is what it is, we literally did that. We surrendered our lives, but also with that, we surrendered our will. We surrendered our choices. We surrendered our decisions. You know, if we truly believe and want to follow Christ, we have to make decisions that honor Him. We have to do things that honor Him and glorify Him and are for His glory, right? So that means that every day we wake up, but we don't know what's gonna happen. So what do we need to do? We need to trust in the Lord. And how do we do that? By praying. Wake up, pray, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's in your bed, honestly, like whatever steps you can take to do that, to eventually be able to pray, maybe on your knees, maybe standing, whatever you need to do that, right? Because on campus, especially if you live on campus, which I'm assuming most of you do, and if you don't and you're like me, holla, commuters, do it, right? It doesn't matter if your class is at 7 a.m., 11 a.m., it doesn't matter if you woke up late. Like, take that moment to just be like, God, guide me through this day, guide my decisions, give me discernment to do what's right, help me through whatever I might come across, because you don't know what's going to happen that day. And surrender, surrendering your life to Christ isn't just surrendering your life, like this big thing that you don't know when it's going to end. It's surrender every single day. Every single day is a choice to choose God or to choose the other dude, because there's no in between. So you have to decide, who am I going to choose today? Am I going to choose myself? Am I going to choose God? Am I going to choose the enemy? No. You should always choose God, because he's the one who's really going to guide you and lead you where you need to go. And He's going to give you the strength to resist whatever temptation might come your way, to resist whatever doubtful thoughts, whatever anxiety, whatever depression comes your way. You really need Him in your life. And I can tell you from living so much without Him and thinking that I was with Him. That's the funny part. And I'm pretty sure He was with me. It's just that I wasn't with Him. He was definitely with me, because He's definitely with you. It's just us deciding if we're gonna let Him in, if we're gonna let Him guide our day and guide our lives and guide our decisions. So definitely first step to resisting temptation is prayer. Now, the second thing I would recommend, and I feel like every video that I've done sitting down and talking to the camera has always had this step involved in it, which is to surround yourself with Christian friends. Or if you don't have Christian friends on your campus, become a part of a Christian community, whether it's a Bible study or a Christian club on campus or a choir club, or also, whatever. Like, go to church. Start going to church. Like I said, when I first started college, I didn't go to church. I was against any church. I was like, I'm not going. I don't care what you say, I'm not going. But God started to work in me the hard way. again, we'll explain later. And I eventually started going to church, because I wanted to. I started to surrender my everyday to him because I felt like obviously nothing else is working, so I need to surrender my everyday to him. And I started going to church, and it completely transformed my life because I met people who would get me closer to Christ. I started seeing the love of Christ through these people. And sometimes it takes a demonstration of love from people for you to understand that God really loves you, because sometimes we see God as this like abstract thing that's so separated and isolated from us, not knowing that he's so much closer, like he's with us everywhere we go. And sometimes going and being a part of a community that truly lives out that Christ life, mind and manner and body of a church, was so amazing. And not just that, like receiving the word every Sunday or whenever I could go on Sundays was so helpful, because in college there's so many distractions. You have so many classes, you could barely keep up with yourself. Like the freshman 15, whether you lose or gain 15 pounds, is so real because you're just eating whatever is in the cafeteria, the dining room, whatever. Like you're not really taking care of yourself physically because you have so many other things going on. So just imagine how much harder it could be to take care of yourself spiritually. But what makes it easier is being surrounded by people who are on the same journey, have the same mindset, and can help you, and let's say they see that you're struggling in something in your life, they can help pray for you, encourage you, and really be there for you as Christ would be there for you, if that makes sense. Like you see Christ through these people, because it's like, wow, like you don't even know me and you care about me and you're praying for me. That's so amazing. Thank you. That encourages me to do the same for someone else, and that encourages me so much through this difficult season of college or a finals week or of overcoming a breakup. So I would definitely encourage you to find a Christian community, whether on campus, outside of campus, and just maintain that. Maintain it. Another tip that I would say in terms of resisting temptation, being cautious of the loopholes and the gates that you let open to the enemy. And these gates can be these doors, I could say, because gates are big, can be as small as being careful about the music you listen to. Of course, again, being careful about the people you surround yourself with. Being careful about even the thoughts that you give access to, the thoughts that you feed, the thoughts that you encourage, like negative thoughts about yourself, maybe lustful thoughts about some boy, thoughts that just aren't of God, right? For example, for me personally, music is so huge for me. Like I'm always listening to music. I'm not that person who walks around with headphones all the time, or AirPods. I don't have those, but like with headphones in all the time listening to music. But I am that person who in my house I always have music on, always have music playing somewhere, somehow. And I've noticed, especially during the time where I wasn't going to church, wasn't really doing much in terms of my relationship with Christ, because I was doing a lot outside of that. But I did notice that the type of music that I would listen to would affect me spiritually, if that makes sense. Like when I started listening to more romantic music or more provocative music, subconsciously I started focusing more on those things. Like, oh, I would love to be in a relationship, and of course I wasn't even in a relationship with God, or a healthy relationship with God. I was not doing my part in that relationship. So to even think about an actual relationship was something that I shouldn't have been thinking about, right? Because I want my relationships to glorify God, but if I'm not even doing that, there's no way I'm gonna attract somebody who has a healthy relationship with God when I don't have one. So needless to say, I was attracting people who just weren't right for me. The music that I would listen to really would affect my thoughts, right? Because a lot of times we listen to mainstream music, if we're being honest. Like, and mainstream music nowadays is so perverted. There's so many, like the Cardi B songs, all these other songs, all they promote is sex, drugs, violence, hating on each other, I'm better than you, selfishness, etc. So we think like, oh, it's just music, it's not gonna affect us, but it really does open a gate to the enemy to allow us to start thinking that way, start hanging out with people who think that way, and doing those things. So I definitely would encourage, like, just be like, if you're someone who genuinely like just loves music, which I think is everyone, like, be careful about the type of music you listen to and the words, the lyrics, what it says, because these mainstream songs, I was about to say great songs, but they're not really great. They're so catchy because of the beat, and people don't pay attention or stop to listen to what it's actually saying and what it's encouraging, because that's what it does. Songs encourage, they influence, they stay in your head all day. If you're just thinking about Anaconda, Don't, Big Booty, whatever, like, that's what you're gonna be thinking about. So be careful about the songs you listen to. Another good tip, I think, and I got this when I was like 14. Somebody told me this, like a leader from the church I used to go to. So a lot of times when it comes to temptation, as young girls, we don't know what that is, right? Because we either want to act stupid, or we generally don't know. We don't see the fact that we're texting this kid at 12 in the morning as temptation, because we just see it as like we're texting them. Mind you, everybody else sees it as like, oh, he's trying to get with you, he's trying to do this, he's trying to whatever. We don't see that some dude asked me to go over to his house just to chill and watch a movie. We don't necessarily see that as something bad, even though now with the whole Netflix and chill thing, we understand like where you're going when you're inviting me over to your house alone, free crib, movies, Netflix, no Wi-Fi. What are we gonna do? You feel me? But sometimes there's certain things that can be much smaller than that, simple as responding to a dude at 12 in the morning and thinking that you guys are just friends, when in reality he has like feelings for you, etc. You have feelings for him, etc. That could lead to a relationship with a person who's not necessarily the one for you or good for you, etc. One tip that they told me in terms of kind of deciphering if what you're doing is right or wrong, or if it pleases the Lord, is focus or try to pay attention when you're doing something with someone, or you're hanging out with a certain person, or you're doing whatever, I don't know. If you start hiding it and you start making it a secret, and it's something that you feel like you can't tell certain people and not everyone could know, sis, I am telling you, stop doing that. Or like, just stop doing what you're doing, whether it's texting that boy, whether it's hanging out with that friend, whether it's hanging out with that group, whether it's going to that event, going to that party. I'm telling you right now, if you find yourself starting to hide these things and it starts becoming secret, and it's secrecy, and it's not even about privacy. It's not like, oh, I don't want people in my business. It's like, no, I don't want people in my business because then I'm gonna get in trouble. They're gonna tell my mom, and they're gonna tell who. That to me is a sign that what you're doing, and it should be to you too, that is not of God, right? The minute you start hiding stuff, it starts being in the dark, and the dark is not of God, right? And the thing is, everything eventually comes to light. So if you find yourself not being able to live in freedom, not being able to date a certain person in freedom, for like logical reasons, like your parents don't approve of this person for logical reasons, being, for example, you're a Christian girl, you're dating a guy who isn't Christian, you have hope that he's gonna change or whatever, but like people, I should make a whole video about that because I've been there and I tried to do that and it doesn't work. But anyways, if you find yourself starting to hide certain things that you're doing, certain things that you're watching, certain things that you're listening to, if you're starting to hide it, it's probably not of God, you know. So you should pray, honestly pray for him to help you with that situation, and pray for clarity, pray for truth in your life. So I remember one time I wanted to start talking to some kid during a time where I was going through a lot. I was trying to rebel against myself, really, because it was completely out of character for me to do that. But I just thought it would lead to somewhere good, and it didn't. And I noticed that I had to hide a lot of stuff. I had to hide hanging out with him. I had to hide texting him. I had to hide certain things because I knew that my family wouldn't approve of it, and I knew that I just knew personally I shouldn't have been doing that. And then when I wanted to do things the right way, and I was like, everything's gonna come to light soon, let me just put it out there, of course I was met with disapproval. And I'm grateful that I was met with disapproval, because had I been met with approval, I don't think I would have been in a very good relationship with a man of God, at least. And I'm grateful for that. But definitely focus on what you start hiding, because what you start hiding is what you probably should stop doing. Okay, another tip is, because temptation a lot of times for us girls is usually some boy, let's be honest, is usually temptation for us is some boy that starts distracting us from the Lord and starts distracting us from making God our priority, and you know, our relationship with them becomes more important than our relationship with God. So what I would say, as a woman who's been there, who's done that, set boundaries with guys. On campus, there's going to be a lot of moments where it's going to be a group of girls and guys in your in dorm rooms or in your dorm room, chilling, having fun, etc. And that's cool. You know, you're chilling, you're having a good time, everyone's staying up, everyone's talking. But be careful about spending one-on-one time with dudes, especially dudes that you like or you find cute or whatever, but that you know, like, this isn't something that I should continue and start a relationship with, because we're adults, we're grown, especially as grown Christian women. We understand what's right and what's wrong, and I hope and I pray that we also understand who we should pay attention to and who we shouldn't pay attention to. You know, we should be equally yoked with someone who is of faith as well. And it's normal to have feelings for people, especially if they're attractive, even if they're Christian or if they're not Christian, right? It's normal. However, we need to be careful of who we give into and who we give our time to, right? So if you start finding yourself having feelings for some dude who isn't Christian and, you know, isn't hanging out with the wrong crowd, etc., be prudent, smart, and like, don't go over to his room to study because when no one's there. Because what's gonna happen if you like him, he likes you, whatever, y'all go into each other's room to study on his bed, like, y'all look at each other some type of way one moment, boom, that's how things start, right? I'm not gonna say you're gonna end up pregnant. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, if you know I want to have relationships that honor God, have relationships that honor God with men that honor God with their lives, right? And if this dude is in a reflection of that and you like him and he likes you and he invites you to his room, say no. You might feel bad because you're like, oh my gosh, he invited me to his room, I really, really want to go, but at the same time I know that I probably shouldn't be hanging out with him. Again, you're hiding it from people. You don't want to tell your friends because then you know they're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna be together, da-da-da, and you know that that's not what you want, right? So don't do things that can lead to things that are gonna take you away from God. Even if it's things as simple as responding to his "what you doing" text at 12 in the morning, or to his "where you at" text at 12 in the morning, or if he's like, oh, let's study together in my room, whatever, like, be like, oh no, let's just study in the library. You know, be smart about it. Be like, no, let's just study in the library. Oh no, I can't right now because whatever. Like, please be smart. And I'm not saying this as a you can do this, you can't do this as a Christian, but as like, don't think about the boundaries that you can, how far you can go with someone and not upset God. Think about, how can this honor God? Like, is this honoring God? Like, is this something God would be proud of me for doing, etc.? And I promise you, at least for me, like, when I think of things that way, instead of like, how far can I go with someone, it really helps me see things differently. And instead of seeing it as like, oh, God doesn't want me to do this, God doesn't want me to have fun, God doesn't want me to be in a relationship. No, he does. He made sex, he created all those things, right? But in the right context, with the right person, you know, with someone who honors God, with someone who is Christian as well. And that things go so much better when you put him first, and when you do, and when you obey him, right? And of course, if you've been in a situation where you've been tempted and you've fallen, God's grace is big enough for you. God's mercy is big enough for you. No matter how far you go, no matter how far you drift off, no matter how far you went with someone, what the things you've done on campus or wherever that you regret, like, God's grace is big enough for you. And of course, he as a loving father wants us to obey him, because the rules that he puts in place are things that are going to help us and help our lives. You might be watching this video and it's something that you wish you would have seen before. Understand that God's grace is big enough for you and me and for all of us, and it's gonna be okay. And, you know, start again with him. Restart. Hit the reset button. Say, hold up, I messed up. I don't want to mess up again. God, guide me. God, lead me. You know, and start praying. Start reading the Bible. Start reading the Word. Enter into a Christian community. Find people who are seeking the same thing you're seeking. And, you know, it's a learning experience. We're all going to fail. We're all going to fall. But understand that every time you fall, God is there to pick you up. We're all going through it, and we're all just trying to be more like Christ, trying to honor God with our relationships and what we're doing. So thank you all for watching. Please, please, please give this video a like if you liked it, and let me know down below if you have any more tips for me and for anybody else who watched this video on how we can resist temptation in college or in our lives. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That was kind of a tongue twister. And the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. I definitely want to continue talking about college, talking about my experiences, eventually sharing the things that I said I was going to share at the beginning of this video. So definitely subscribe below. That's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.